Hey everybody, and on today's vlog, we are discussing Scapegoat by Indie Boards and Cards. Somebody's goat to take the fall.
In Scapegoat, we are all members of the Gruff Gang, the world's most renowned group of Billy Goat criminal masterminds. We've just pulled off our greatest caper yet, stealing the coveted golden hoof right out from the most secure bank vault in Barn City. But the cops are onto us, and someone's goat to take the fall for it. I think I know just who to pin the blame on, but in this business, farmyard friends can quickly become farmyard foes.
Hey Sarah, how's it going?
I'm well.
So what are we discussing today on our vlog?
Today we're going to discuss Scapegoat, a 3 to 6 player game from Indie Boards and Cards. They sent us this copy, thank you very much, and we played with my parents. They did not wish to be in this video though, so we're just going to talk about it after we've wrapped up our game with them. So in Scapegoat, we are each members of a team of goat bandits, and we have successfully pulled off a heist, but the cops are hot on our tail, and we are looking to dump all of the blame onto one member of the team. And if we can do that successfully, then we win and they lose. But if they figure out that we are going to try to dump all the blame on them, they can go to the cops, and then the rest of us will be in trouble. So the way that it's going to work is based on the player count, you will use particular things. So there are certain cards that you use for every player count, and there are certain dashboards that you use for every player count. This would be the setup for a 4-player game, which is what we played. Now, normally the player who controls each of these dashboards would not show their dashboard to anybody else in the game, but I'm going to show it to you because I want to point something out to you. So these are the dashboards that every player gets in the game, and you'll notice that for each player, only the other player's colors are on their dashboards. So what's going to happen at the start of the game is we're going to roll these 2 dice, and they are going to tell us our scapegoat for this game. So we rolled a 10 and a 7. So we just find the 10 on the white and the 7 on the black, and we follow that down, and we get our scapegoat. So in this game, the blue player thinks that the green player is going to be our scapegoat. The green player, however, thinks that our scapegoat is going to be the red player. The red player thinks that our scapegoat is going to be the yellow player, so that's what this player thought. And then finally, the yellow player is going to think that the green player is going to be our scapegoat. So these 3 players right here think that green is going to be our scapegoat. However, green thinks that yellow is going to be our scapegoat. No, I'm sorry. No, red is going to be our scapegoat. So these 3 players are trying to pin the crimes on the green player, and the green player thinks that we're trying to pin the crimes on the red player. So what's going to happen is, and like I said, all of that is hidden throughout the game, so you don't get to know that at the start of the game. So each player is going to have their dashboard. They're going to keep it secret who they think we're trying to pin the blame on. And what's going to happen is on a player's turn, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to move to one of these locations here. We start out at a random location. So if I was the blue player, I start out here on this location. I have to move to one of the other locations. Now, each of these locations is going to allow me to do a particular ability. So for example, I could move here and simultaneously trade one card with another player. Or I could move here to add a card from the stash right here to my hand and then put a card back into the stash. Over here, I could go here to take one of these tokens. And if both tokens are gone, then this card is going to flip over, and we're one step closer to being able to attempt our frame job. And if at any point in the game, I believe that every other player is about to try to frame me, instead of going to one of the other locations, I could go to the cops instead. But this will immediately end the game, and if I'm wrong, I will lose, and so will my team. So what's going to happen is on your turn, you take your player piece and you move to a new location. You must move to a new location, and then you do the action of that location. After you've done the action of that location, you have to take one of the cards from your hand and switch it with the card of the location that you went to. If you have a card in your hand of your own color, like I have blue and yellow, and I'm blue, I have to get rid of this one first. So I went to this location, I simultaneously traded a card with another player. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put this one back. Now I have these two cards in hand, right? That's my turn. I move to a location, I do the action that's available to me at that location, and then lastly I swap a player card with whatever player card was at that location. Now, what is going to happen is when at this location, when both of the blue stones have been picked up at this location, this is going to be flipped over. Now let's say green has one of these and red has the other one. Now, when you go to the frame location, you have a couple different options. If you already have the blue token, then you are going to attempt to frame someone. If you don't have a blue token, you can steal one from somebody else. Then on your the next time that you're able to go to that location, then you can attempt to frame someone. And this is going to let it's going to let players have a little bit of time to react to the potential frame job that's going to happen. Now, when both of the blue stones are in play and a player has one at the start of their turn and they wish to attempt a frame, what they are going to do is they are going to announce that they're attempting a frame, and then simultaneously all of the players are going to point to the player that they think the scapegoat is supposed to be. And if everyone is pointing at the same character, if they are indeed the scapegoat, then those players win the game, the scapegoat loses, and that's that. If, however, any player is not pointing at the player that all of the other players are pointing at, or if all the players are pointing at a player who is not the designated scapegoat, then the game ends in the scapegoat's favor. Additionally, like I said earlier, at any time in the game, if you think you're about to be the victim of a frame job, you can instead go to the cops. If you were the goat that was supposed to be framed, but you went to the cops first, then the cops catch all of the other criminals, and basically you don't get framed. So then you win the game. And that's it. It's pretty simple. It was pretty easy to pick up on. I think it was pretty silly and kind of fun. And I really like the idea that we all have information, but one of us has flawed information. I thought this is a really fun execution of that idea. I think the theming is great, but unfortunately, in our game, it became pretty clear, even though players were trying to be careful about not giving too much of an indication as to who they thought we were going to be trying to frame, it did become pretty clear like what information each of us had, and that made it really easy for the person we were supposed to frame to recognize that they were about to be framed, and they went to the cops, and then we all got in trouble, and they won the game. So, and I think honestly that's probably just maybe a flaw in this game, is that if you're paying any amount of attention, you can kind of figure out pretty easily who the other players think the player who should be framed is. Which was really disappointing to me, because the general principle behind this game is pretty interesting and pretty unique, I think. And I would have liked to have seen it work a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely the back with picking who is supposed to be the scapegoat, and like no one really knowing. It's just you roll the dice and then you go ahead and evaluate the cards. Was just I think just a pretty genius way of telling people who's who without you know, people drawing cards or,
Yeah.
you know, and someone accidentally seeing the card.
Right, exactly. And this is so easy. You're just supposed to leave this, it was on a 10, I think. You're just supposed to leave it that way for the remainder of the game. You just kind of set it off somewhere to the side so it doesn't get bumped or jostled or anything. And then if you ever forget, you can look back at the dice and then look back at your card. And nobody can tell, because nobody knows what's on your card but you. Nobody can even track like your eye movement and figure out what you might be thinking or who you might be, you know. And if you know, as long as you're not like looking at your card and then like looking at other players and be like, are you the yellow player? Then like you're not going to give it away. So this is a really, really smart way to handle this sort of hidden information. And I think it was a really neat premise. I just wish the execution would have worked a little bit better.
Yeah, I think we played on one of our games. It was just a couple rounds, and like I was the scapegoat, and I could have I already was telling like, and I don't know if it was just the players that we had too, because everyone was just going for yellow cards. I was the yellow. I was the pickpocketer.
Yeah, so that's one that I think maybe I may not have made it clear, but that's one way for the scapegoat to kind of figure out that you might be onto them, and about to make them the scapegoat. Is what happens with these cards here is that when both of these gems have been taken, and when a player goes to make an accusation as to who they think the scapegoat is going to be, all the other players have to have the right card in hand. So for example, in a game where yellow is the scapegoat, if all of the other players have a yellow card, let's see which one of these is yellow. Okay, this one's yellow. So yellow, obviously they don't want to target themselves, right? They're the scapegoat. And this player have cards they can use to say that they think that it's the yellow player, but this one doesn't. So this one is, they cannot claim that it's yellow because they only have blue and green cards. So even if they think it's yellow, right now, they're not allowed to communicate that to any of the other players. So if a player with a stone calls for a frame job before the other two, you know, depending on the player count in this game, it would be before the other two players are ready, then any player who doesn't have the right card isn't going to be able to participate in the frame job in the way they would need to in order for their team to win the game. So you have to collect cards. So if this player knows that we're framing yellow, which they do because of their card, right? They know that we're trying to frame yellow. Then they also know that they need to get a yellow card in hand so that if a player initiates the frame, they will have the right card that they need. But that means that when they're doing things, they have to pick up the cards that they need in order to have those cards in hand when they need them. So that's what we're talking about here. When players were picking up cards, they were going to locations where they could pick up the card they needed for the frame job. And unfortunately, that tipped off our scapegoat that it was probably them that was the scapegoat because people were picking up their cards, right?
Yeah, so, I was like, you're all looking pretty suspicious with picking up just my color and dropping everyone else's color off. I don't know about this. Yeah. I'm gonna jump out the window now and scale down the side of the building.
So I think these locations are supposed to sort of help you maybe divert some attention, right? You're like, oh, well, I'll go here and I'll look at another player's hand. Okay, well, maybe you went there just because you wanted to look at another player's hand, because that can be useful at times in the game. But also, maybe you went there to pick up whatever card was available at that location, right? So if a lot of one color of card is getting picked up from the different locations, then it might tip off that player that they're about to be framed.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think that this is brilliant. I love the general idea behind the game, and I even think that, like, while I don't particularly care for the goats, I think that's kind of silly, but I think the theming, like where we're sort of members on a team but we're going to turn on one, and I think I mean, it's even sort of a clever, you know, play on words. Obviously we're looking for a scapegoat, so they made them goats. That's funny, I guess. So even like the theming and stuff like that is quite, you know, quite good. I just wish it worked a little bit better.
Alrighty then. Well, this was our vlog, discussion vlog on Scapegoat by Indie Boards and Cards. We all hope you enjoyed it, and if this is your kind of game where you like social deduction and, you know, accusing and try not to tip off the, you know, whatever the game is, murderer, you know, scapegoat, whoever, check this game out. It'll be worth your while. Alright, well, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Toodles!